April 14th, 1945. Northern Apennines, Italy. Damp fog clings to the ridges, the ground trembles, artillery thunders. Men crouch in muddy foxholes, hearts pounding. Orders crackle through the haze. The attack begins. Steel and fire rip the silence. The last German line stands between the Allies and the open Po Valley. The stakes are clear. The end of the war in Italy. How do exhausted soldiers break through when every mile is paid in blood? The fog lifts as the sun rises, revealing battered hills and shattered trees. For 19 months, Allied troops have clawed their way up the Italian peninsula, fighting for every ridge and every village. Now, in April 1945, the final push begins. The United States Fifth Army, under General Truscott, and the British Eighth Army, led by General McCreary, face a determined enemy. 24 German and 5 Italian fascist divisions dig in, their lines anchored on steep mountain fingers and fortified ridges. Behind them, the vast Po Valley stretches north, a gateway to the heart of Europe. The terrain is brutal. Mountain ridges rise like broken teeth, valleys fenced by trees and dikes. Rivers cut across every route, their banks fortified with trenches and machine gun nests. The Germans, short on men and supplies, cling to Hitler's orders, hold every position, retreat only when forced. Their first line guards Bologna, the vital communications hub. Behind it, the Po River forms a second barrier, wide and treacherous. Farther north, the Adige line waits in the Alpine foothills, a last-ditch defense, trenches snaking through the hills. Winter has drained both armies. Allied units rotate to the rear for rest, battered equipment is rebuilt, and supplies are hoarded. Artillery shells pile up, fuel lines snake through the mountains. By April, the Fifth Army fields 270,000 men, 5 United States infantry divisions, the 10th Mountain and 1st Armored Divisions, the Japanese-American 42nd Regiment, the 1st Brazilian Infantry Division, and more. The British Eighth Army, with Polish, Indian, New Zealander, and British divisions, stretches east to the Adriatic. The plan is simple: a massive coordinated assault to shatter the Axis lines and sweep into the Po Valley. April 5th, the United States 92nd Infantry Division attacks along the Ligurian coast. Air and artillery bombardments pound enemy positions. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team, Nice soldiers, scale the Apuan Alps, outflanking the defenders. In the chaos, Private Sadao Mutamori sacrifices himself to save his comrades, earning the Medal of Honor. After days of savage fighting, Massa falls. The drive north halts at Carrara's marble quarries, enemy resistance stiffening. April 9th. On the Adriatic, the Eighth Army surges forward. Polish, Indian, New Zealander, and British troops clash with German Panzer and Jaeger divisions. The Argenta Gap falls on April 18th, threatening to turn the entire Axis flank. The stage is set for the Fifth Army's main blow. April 14th. The fog finally lifts. At 0900, Truscott orders the attack. The 10th Mountain Division advances after a storm of bombs and shells. Minefields and strongpoints slow the assault, but the Americans push forward. Private John Magrath, acting as scout, charges through machine gun fire, capturing enemy weapons and destroying nests. He falls under shell fire, posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. By nightfall, the 10th Mountain holds the basin and hills, but at a cost of over 550 casualties. To the east, the 1st Armored Division storms Vergato, fighting house to house. The Brazilian Expeditionary Force enters Montes, battling through fierce resistance. For 4 days, the 4th Corps grinds north, seizing Monte Pigna, Monte Mantino, Monte Mosca, and the Reno River Valley. The fighting is close and brutal, ridge to ridge, valley to valley. American firepower and relentless attacks slowly force the Germans back. By April 19th, the first Axis line begins to crack. April 15th, over 760 heavy bombers hammer the German lines between highways 64 and 65. The 6th South African Armored and United States 88th Infantry Divisions move after nightfall, seizing Monte Sol and opening the way north. The 88th attacks Monte Rumici and Monte Adon, key defensive heights. The battle rages through the night, but the enemy holds. The next day, the Americans renew their assault. The 88th takes most of Monterumasi, and Truscott releases the 85th Division to exploit the breach. The 1st Armored shifts west, ready to strike toward Modnina. By April 17th, the 10th Mountain Division punches through the last enemy positions. Only 30 miles of flat land and a disintegrating Axis force stand between the Allies and the Po River. The Germans, battered and outnumbered, begin a desperate retreat. The battle's tempo shifts. 5 armored columns of the 1st Armored Division drive up the Samajia Valley, clashing with the last German tanks. The 10th Mountain advances 6 miles, capturing thousands of prisoners. The 85th keeps pace, while the 2nd Corps hammers at Bologna's defenses. The 91st Division raises the stars and stripes atop Monte Adon, a signal that the stalemate is broken. April 20th, the turning point. Both Allied armies stand poised to race from the Apennines to the Po. Orders shift. Speed and mobility now matter more than methodical advance. The campaign becomes a race, Allies and Axis both rushing for the river, the Alps, and escape. Truscott orders the 2nd Corps to encircle Bologna and link with the 8th Army at Bondino. The 10th Mountain cuts Highway 9, seizes Ponte Samajia, and surges north. The 6th South African Armored and 85th Divisions join the drive. April 21st, the Allies break into the Po Valley. The 1st Armored turns northwest. The 10th Mountain seizes a bridge across the Panaro River, and the 85th crosses farther east. Bologna falls to the 34th Division, but Truscott leaves the city to Italian troops, sending the Americans west to block enemy escape. The 34th reaches Modena, then pushes toward Reggio. The 6th South African Armored leads the 2nd Corps to the Panaro and the Po, with the 88th mopping up Axis stragglers. The 91st captures Bologna's airport and races north. By dawn, April 22nd, the 5th Army is deep in the Po Valley. Axis forces try to delay the Allied link-up but are swept aside. The 10th Mountain reaches the Po at San Benedetto by evening. Destroyed enemy vehicles and equipment litter the south bank. No bridges remain. The Americans wait for crossing equipment as the 1st Armored blocks escape routes along the river. Special task forces mop up bypassed enemy pockets. Over 100,000 Axis troops surrender south of the river. April 23rd, the 85th Division saves the Panaro Bridge at Camposanto, cutting demolition wires under fire. Once across, they repel counterattacks and clear the town. Another regiment swings left, crosses at Bomporto, and covers 24 miles to the Po by noon. The division secures the south bank, capturing hundreds more prisoners. By April 24th, the entire 5th Army front stands at the Po. Engineers rush pontoon and treadway bridges forward. 50 M2 assault boats ferry troops across under German artillery bursts. By nightfall, 2 regiments of the 10th Mountain hold the far bank. To the east, the British 8th Army nears the Po, with armored and infantry divisions closing on Bondeno, Ferrara, and Policella. Italian battle groups approach the river delta. The 2nd Corps reshuffles, establishing bridgeheads with the 88th, 91st, and South African divisions. By April 25th, the crossings are secure. The 10th Mountain, 85th, and 88th Divisions surge north, covering up to 40 miles in a day. The Brazilians, 34th, and 1st Armored Divisions push west along Highway 9 toward Piacenza. The 91st and South African Armor head for the Adige River in Legnago. April 26th, Verona falls at dawn after a vicious night battle. 3 American divisions converge on the city, bringing the 5th Army to the final Axis line, the Adige Line. Its trenches and dugouts, stretching up to 5,000 yards deep, are barely manned. The Allied advance now resembles a tactical march. Axis units dissolve into small, desperate groups, fleeing north under relentless pressure. Truscott sends the 2nd Corps northeast to help the 8th Army take Padua, Venice, and Treviso. The 91st crosses at Legnano, securing the right flank. Sporadic artillery fire harasses the crossings, but organized resistance is gone. The 6th South African Armored stretches east, linking with British units. 4th Corps units seal the Brenner Pass and destroy the Ligurian Army in the west. The 10th Mountains Task Force Derby races up Lake Garda's eastern shore. The 85th moves uncontested through the Adige Line, then into reserve. The 1st armored blocks escape routes to Austria and Switzerland. The 34th sweeps west, taking Parma, Fidenza, and Piacenza, gathering prisoners by the thousands. April 27th, the 92nd Infantry Division enters Genoa without opposition. The Axis garrison has already surrendered to Italian partisans. Secret negotiations, underway since February, now bear fruit. German emissaries arrive at Allied headquarters in Caserta on April 28th. The next day, they sign the unconditional surrender of all Axis forces south of the Alps. The ceasefire is set for noon, May 2nd. But the fighting continues as orders filter down to scattered units. April 28th to May 2nd. The Fifth Army stretches from the French border to Verona, curving through the Alpine foothills. Battles flare, but resistance collapses. Prisoners flood into makeshift camps. The 10th Mountain advances up Lake Garda through narrow alpine valleys, blocked only by last-ditch rear guards. On April 30th, Colonel Darby is killed by a random shell, days before the end. The division takes Riva, Torbole, and Nago, ready to enter the Alps. The 1st Armored meets partisans in Milan, confirming the city's liberation. On April 30th, General Krittenberger and 4th Corps enter Milan. The 34th relieves the 1st Armored north of the city, sealing off Axis escape. The Brazilians bottle up the 148th Grenadier and Italia Bersaglieri divisions, collecting over 13,500 prisoners. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team enters Turin. The Ligurian army capitulates, its units surrendering piecemeal. In the northeast, the 88th clears Vicenza in bitter house-to-house fighting, then stretches along Highway 11, capturing thousands more. On May 1st, the 85th and 88th Divisions advance north along the Piave, linking with the United States 7th Army from Germany on May 4th. The 91st and South African Armor protect the 8th Army's flank, reaching Trieste and joining Yugoslav partisans on May 2nd. That evening, the ceasefire order spreads across northern Italy. Axis forces lay down their arms within 48 hours, May 3rd. At Caserta, Generals Truscott and McCreary accept the formal surrender of the remaining Axis forces in Italy. The war in the Mediterranean ends. The Po Valley offensive is over. In less than a month, the Allies have shattered the last German defenses, liberated northern Italy, and forced the surrender of hundreds of thousands. The cost is high. The Fifth Army has fought for 602 days, longer than any other United States field army in the war. Allied losses in Italy exceed 312,000, with nearly 32,000 killed. German losses are even greater. What began as a diversion in 1943 has become a full-scale campaign, drawing in 500,000 Allied troops at its peak. The soldiers who fought here have crossed 1,000 miles of mountains through rain, mud, and fire against a determined enemy. Their relentless drive, their courage in countless small unit actions, and their refusal to yield have broken the Axis in Italy. The Po Valley campaign stands as a testament to Allied resolve and sacrifice. The final days are a blur of speed, exhaustion, and liberation. Towns once shattered by war now echo with the sounds of freedom. Prisoners march to the rear, the guns fall silent, and the long nightmare ends. The campaign's legacy is not just in the ground gained, but in the unity forged among nations. Americans, British, Brazilians, South Africans, Poles, Italians, and more, who fought side by side. The lessons of the Po Valley endure: the power of coalition, the cost of victory, and the enduring hope for peace after the storm.